There we are. Well, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara on Wednesday, December 19th, 2024. 1 week from Christmas Day, okay? So a few things we're going to be talking about Quebec's ban on public prayer, Ford and the Premier standing united against Trump, and Gaza peace, hopefully. All right. So one thing we didn't get to yesterday was about Quebec eyeing a ban on public prayer. It's interesting because I would have thought that most people would have said that of all of the provinces in Canada, that Quebec was the most religious. And now they've put a secularism bill, and Premier Francois Legault recorded a video address that intended to reassure people that the proposed who felt the proposed legislation was going too far, right? And he's saying it's a debate that's been going on for at least 10 years, and the government has put in place rules that are clear for everyone.
Yeah, the Quebec secular law has a long history. It goes way back. It goes back to the 90s. They were going to eliminate religious symbolism then, but didn't want to take down the cross in the Quebec legislature.
Yeah.
Because they say, well, because that's part of our history. The Catholic Church was part of the big history of Quebec being French Catholics and converting the Indigenous people and all that. But they couldn't have it both ways. When they took a second chance at having secularism, they got it closer to be right. They don't want any kind of religious symbolism in any of their government workers. They want, and I agree with them. I agree with them because there are too many tensions among different people that coming into the country. Hindus might not like Muslims might not like, and if you're a Muslim and you're wearing an hijab and in a government work, and a Jewish person comes in and they're wearing their kitab, and they might just not be friendly to everyone else. So the secularism I like. But they can't seem to get it right, and that's the whole problem. They just can't seem to get it quite right.
Yeah. The only issue about that is, of course, is that from some people of some religions wearing like the hijab in Islam, many women believe that it's supposed to be there to protect them. I don't agree with that, but that's what they believe.
Well, I'm not so sure every Muslim woman believes that either, and
yeah, there are many Muslim women that don't, but there are many that do.
And most women who come from a family that wear hijabs, if they take their hijab off, they're going to get roundly criticized, and that kind of thing. So, but the fact is that you don't want religious symbolism in your public works of any kind. So I agree with that completely. No religious symbolism. That means Sikhs couldn't work there, though. Like men Sikhs couldn't work there unless they took off their turban and trimmed their beard, basically. But generally speaking, I believe in secularism in government. Otherwise, what happens is you get sectors. You get this person fighting with that person. They bring their old arguments from wherever they come from.
Yeah, absolutely, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, would that mean that, for example, that Mr. Singh could not be invited to the Quebec Parliament to give an address there if they so wished him to?
Because it's not. It's completely different. It's not the governing part of it. That Singh could go in and become part of the government, represent the government. He just couldn't work for the government.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yep. No, I'm just putting that out there so we're clear exactly where that is, right?
And this is the problem with the secularism in Quebec. It's not totally clear. Like they had some kids in a Catholic school. In this particular case, they were the teachers were leading them in prayer down the halls.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'll see some sort of prayer thing or something happening out of the Catholic schools here where somebody carries a cross around and that. So like a teacher carries a cross or something like that, and all the students follow them, some kind of expression of religion. And that was the problem. Were we going to allow that? Are we going to allow kids to be praying in the hall?
Yeah, here's a problem. I have a problem with the fact that everybody knows I have a problem with the fact that we have religion. We have the Catholic and the public school system. I believe they should be united. But putting that aside, if you've got a Catholic school system, then prayer is a part of that school system, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think, but it's in Quebec, sort of the Catholic school is the public school kind of thing. It's like it's kind of strange. And what it says here, the premier who described the ban moderate in his video said he doesn't go far enough and recently indicated that he want to ban prayers in public. This is Bill 21, the strength of the law where political conversation around religion in Quebec is heading. What has changed? This fall, a group of 11 teachers at Bedford Elementary School were suspended, accused of fostering toxic climate and letting their religious beliefs dictate their work and treatment of students and staff shortly after the Quebec government announced it was monitoring the school and at least 17 other schools for similar reasons. Then a little under 2 weeks ago, a story in La Presse described St. Maxime High School, Laval, praying with students and allowing them to pray in classrooms and hallways. All right. So if you're going to allow Christians to do that, then you have to allow Muslims to do it 5 times a day, or Hindu, whatever their religious requirements are. I think Jews pray 3 times a day, so you're going to have to work that one in. And
absolutely. And so if you're going to allow Christians to do it, you have to allow Muslims and Muslims, we say, because of the fact, they've always come to the fore because of the fact that they have to pray 5 times a day.
Yeah, that's twice during school day.
Exactly.
2 or 3 times.
Some of those are during school day, yes. One before lunch, one after lunch. Well, actually, it could be a 3rd time during the school day, depending upon when it gets dark. But
sundown. Yeah.
Generally, the 3rd one is not done during.
In the wintertime, it would be definitely, because in Quebec the sun would go down pretty early.
Well, in northern Quebec,
the kids might still be at school.
Yeah, in northern Quebec, that's for sure. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm all for the secularism. I don't like religious symbolism in any kind of government at all. You can have as much as you want in your own church, in your own community, whatever. But when it comes to government, suit and tie, well dressed, no crosses. I don't like people dangling crosses. I don't like the kipka on the head. I don't like hijabs or turbans or anything like that in government, anything that suggests religion, because when you have different religious symbolism, it looks like a division, like these people are divided. They're not all together. So religion is for the schools, the temples, the synagogues. That's where that's for, or at home, but not in government. And I agree with that. But how do you enforce that? So when you get a bunch of kids, you get a religious teacher, let's say somebody from the Catholic school over here, St. Paul's, and he or she wants to lead everybody in a really warm prayer during Christmas time, and they all get in the halls and they all start praying. Well, that's not good in Quebec, and they might be able to pull it off here, but still, I just disagree with it. But anyway, that's me.
Well, I find it ironic that Quebec, of course, is as I said before, one of the most religious of all the provinces.
Well, it's because Quebec is most of the people are French Catholics, and the French Catholic Church kind of ruled Quebec for a very long time. It's the thing that it was the leader of the society. It's not so much now, but it has deep roots in society.
Oh yeah, absolutely, it does. You know, and it's part and parcel of things like the Quebec Civil Code. Have got a religious foundation to them.
Yeah,
As they do in France.
Religion was a thing that held the Quebec society together, particularly after the Brits beat up on the French army and chased them out. Quebec was an island of French-speaking people, and who do you think were the leaders in the communities? It was the church, right?
Yeah, all right.
They're the ones that kept the culture alive.
Yeah, but at least a couple of these ministers, like Louis-Philippe Lampron, who actually was a law professor at Laval, has said we've already gotten this wrong once before, so it's important we don't get it wrong again.
Yeah, they have to get the what is permitted and what isn't, and you can't be an extremist. You can't be a hypocrite. Like I said, back in the 90s, they wanted to go secular, but they wanted to keep the big cross in the Quebec legislature because, well, it symbolized the history of Quebec. Well, if the premier and the legislature has a big cross on it, that's as much as you can say about religious symbolism as possible. Like, so they've taken that down now, but they were unwilling to remove Christian symbolism when they first talked about secularism and removing religious symbolism.
Yeah,
but they were unwilling to do it with Christian symbolism. So you have to have it all. You know,
you can't be you can't be opposed to removing other people's symbols, but not your own.
Yes. So you want to basically that's it. Like if you want to be a hypocrite and say, well, your religious symbolism's got to go away, not mine, then it doesn't really work. But I think what they're trying to do is remove all kinds of religious symbolism in the secular world, and it's been challenged by the Supreme Court of Canada. It's still being challenged, so they still have to get it right.
Any law that is in any slight way controversial is likely to be challenged and be, investigated within the Supreme Court.
Well, yeah, and don't forget Quebec and all the other provinces has the notwithstanding clause anyway, so they gotta get out of jail card anyway.
Yeah, but
get out of Canadian law anyway.
Again, that notwithstanding clause is something that should be eyed with very, very much with caution, because use of notwithstanding, basically it means that if you use a notwithstanding clause and your party is gung-ho in favor of something, and then I'm coming along in 5 years' time and as the next leader of the parliament, I do nothing to renew your notwithstanding, and your law goes bye-bye,
Well, it was supposed to be a temporary measure, and it was supposed to
exactly.
Actually, it was supposed to appease Quebec during the negotiations for a constitution. So,
absolutely, all of that, but the question here is that appeasing Quebec in order to get the United Constitution is one thing. Use of notwithstanding, realistically, historically, Quebec is the only province that actually has historically used it multiple times. Right? It's likely that we will be the first time the use for notwithstanding for the homeless crisis in Ontario. And I don't think I think Regina is, I think that Alberta is the only other province that has used it once.
Yeah. Well, anyway, when we bring in more and more people from all over the world, we're going to have more and more religions, and we're
Yeah,
going to have more and more ethnic problems.
yeah,
Because and we found that the among the Indians, they have the caste system that is supposed to be illegal, but it still exists. And Indians working with other Indians will not find an easy path up the corporate ladder if they come from a different uh, caste or lower caste. We found that. So there's all kinds of prejudices that are going on right now.
yeah.
Sikhs and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Khalistanis. Um, if you have a Sikh in a government office and you have an Indian from a Hindu or Muslim background, they come in and they all might have friction uh, due to their the religious symbolism or ethnic symbolism that's on them. So, yeah, when we bring in a whole lot of people, we just simply do not. At first, the first bans of religious symbolism were to protect people coming into the country from other religions. You didn't want to
Yeah.
lord it over them like we're Christians, goodbye. And we had even changed our Merry Christmas to festive holidays because we didn't want to offend anybody. But now we find that the other religions are just as offensive as ours.
Yeah. And you know what? Hey, it was a Muslim person that said to me, we're not having any happy holidays here. It's Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
Well,
so
look, in Libya, I remember a very young man. He's saying he was very happy about Eid, and he said to me, "Happy Eid," because Eid is for everyone. And I remember saying before that to a Jewish guy that lived next to me, "Had Merry Christmas," and he thanked me very much, and it didn't occur to me that he was Jewish. I just said Merry Christmas to the guy. I know he was Jewish, but it was just, and he was very pleased to hear it from me because maybe he didn't hear it from people who knew that he was Jewish, but it didn't make any difference to me. Christmas was for everybody. Hey,
yeah,
JC
yeah.
was a Jew anyway, man.
Yeah, yeah. I know, and I get it. You're not thinking that way. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right. Moving on. Ford is saying the premiers need to stand united against Trump and the tariff threat. He's basically been our most outspoken politician regarding tariffs, because he's already suggested that he was looking at Christopher Freeland's resignation and saying, the shockwaves it sent through Ottawa, and saying that that's an ever more reason why we need to stand firm against Trump, and the fact that we have we have to act united as Team Canada. That's what he's saying to to his fellow premiers. And the fact that Freeland is gone makes that fight all the more important as far as Trump is concerned. And in some respects, you know what? The wise man in the federal government would probably make Trump the ambassador. Would make Ford the ambassador to fight Trump's tariff barrier.
Well, I gotta say, I like Ford very much lately. He's
So do I in this respect.
well, Danielle Smith, as much as I respect her as a strong proponent of Alberta, and Legault, I like him as well. He's from Quebec. Those two have decided they have a lot of energy. They're going to continue to sell to the United States. Not Ford. He says, "You want to fight? I'm going to fight. Put up your dukes,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah,
You backstab me, you bastard. Now you want to fight? I'm going to fight you. I'm going to cut off your power. We're going to fight. We're going to duke it out. You want to be tough? I'll show you tough." That's the language that Trump will respect more than, okay, we'll keep the power on, we'll keep the oil
yeah.
flowing. all that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like on the 20th of January, the east coast of the US goes dark because Canada turned the power off.
Well, if we turned off the oil and we turned off the power that Quebec sends down, or some of the power that Quebec sends down to the eastern seaboard, Quebec sells massive amounts of power down to the eastern seaboard.
Yeah.
So, and it's a huge amount of revenue for Quebec. If they turned that tap off even halfway, that would put a lot of strain on the government. Now, I expect that Trump is not dumb, and he will not put a 25% tariff on the electrical power that comes out of Quebec. I'm pretty sure they would not put a 25% electrical tariff on the electrical power Ontario sends to a couple of the states close by.
New York primarily, yeah.
But there's a big difference between Legault and Ford. Ford sees a bully when he sees him. I know who you are. You're a bully, right? And the only way to fight a bully is to fight him.
Yeah.
If that bully keeps
Fist of Dawn man, right?
If that bully keeps getting something out of you, and even if you fight him back, and you might lose, but he gets hurt, he's gonna the second time he's not gonna be so quick to bully you. But as much as you keep giving him, the more he will bully you. And that's just how bullies work, and that's who he is. He's a bully, and he will give you, say, all right, I want this, I want that, I want that. And right now, what's he got? He's got the Canadian government jumping through hoops.
Yeah,
he's got $1.3 billion more on the border security, just like that. When all the premiers, particularly the Quebec one, have been demanding more resources for their border, suddenly they're getting it. Why? Because Trump said so.
Yes. Yeah.
He's already calling the shots up here. But Ford won't have it, though. Ford says, "You want to fight? I'll fight." Right? And it's like he's like a 98. It's hard to see Ford as a 98-pound weakling against the gigantic turkey, that Trump is, but still, it's go for it, Doug. Go for it. Give him a shot right in the newts.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, so he's been on CNN and other US news, and so basically, he's really up for the fight, and I'm appreciative of Doug Ford for being that way.
Yeah, and let's face it, Trump keeps saying we're keeping Canada afloat to the subsidizing them for $100 billion. Well, you're the one that negotiated the last NAFTA agreement, with the one we're running on now. Are you telling us that it was a complete failure on your administration's part, that you negotiated such a terrible deal?
It's a very good question. That is,
because you're the one that negotiated the deal with Canada and Mexico. So what are you saying? You screwed up?
Dankeschön, Peter Baker.
Yeah. Hello, Baker. Guten Tag, mein Fruden.
Good morning, my friends, he's saying.
Ah. Yeah.
Okay. So just before let's do a little bit of fun, right? Christmas, a few Christmas activities for the holiday season. I bet you did this. Bet your wife did this with your kids at some point. Bake Christmas cookies. Did they?
Oh yeah. I think they would get into these things, but when the kids are little, their concentration span is very little, so they'd come in, maybe take the cookie cutter all over the cookies and then take off, or then come back, and so of course they did. Of course they got involved in all the different little Christmas things. That was the best part of my life, really, when my kids were small.
Okay, what about making Christmas ornaments? Did you do that?
Yes, we did. Yeah, I made a bunch of I showed the kids how to make, like we did in school. We would make these rings of, we cut colored paper into strips, and then make a loop, and then put the other one in and make a loop, and glue it like this, so you'd have a big chain of different colors.
Well, we used to buy these wad of paper, the wad of multicolored paper, and what you would do is you tear each strip off, lick it, loop it, strip, lick, loop, right? Until you made yourself a great big long chain of Christmas decorations.
That's a lot of licking of glue. Did your tongue stick to the top of your mouth for a week after that?
My tongue stuck after about 3 of them. Yeah.
I suggest a little sponge.
A little sponge with water on it was the best solution. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. What always used to amuse me is when you wouldn't pick up one of those strips, so you'd end up picking up 3 or something. You'd dab the top, and then you'd end up with 3 of them wet all at the same time. Okay. Well, actually, I think read a Christmas book or 2 or 3 or 4 is probably where you need to go. Kind of that's an activity that everybody can do.
Nowadays the kids would have to have the colorized version of Scrooge or Christmas Carol. Yeah. That one with Alistair Sims in it, the one that was made back in the 50s. That's the best Scrooge film ever made. And I think I used to do that every year. I used to get everybody around and watch Scrooge. I haven't done that now for a few years, but it was my habit. Sometime around Christmas Eve or something, I put in late at night. I put in Scrooge, that movie Scrooge. So that's something you could do. Is watch the Scrooge movie. Also, if you can get a hold of the old Oliver Twist, or not Oliver Twist, but A Christmas Carol, the old movie. Well, no, I guess that's the same one. Scrooge. I'm thinking.
Same one.
Yeah, but there's other ones that you can get. That I was kind of thinking of Oliver Twist there for a second. It kind of interfered with my Dickens data bank.
Yeah, he was told, Dickens was told with Christmas Carol by his publisher, we aren't publishing that. There's no way it is going to make us a penny, right? He self-published it, and it's one of the biggest selling books of all time.
Yeah. There's another interesting thing about Dickens. He had to come. He didn't really like it in the United States. He came to the United States, didn't really like it there. Very unusual, because most Brits loved it in the United States when they got there. He didn't really like it that much, but he had to come to the United States to make money, because there was no protections on his books, no copyright protections. Once he wrote them in Britain, they could be stolen by U.S. publishers and just reprinted. Yeah, they were extremely popular in the United States. So he would go on tour and do readings and things like that, and he would make money that way. But he couldn't make any money on his books in the United States because there was no copyright protection in those days.
Yeah,
so that's how he made some extra money. And here's another thing about Dickens. He would act out his own books. He was also act out other things as well. One person said of Dickens, well, more than one, that he was a superb actor. That if he had turned his life to acting, he would have been one of the best actors in Britain. That's how impressed other actors were with him when he acted out his own books.
Yeah.
And he has said to his daughter, he acted out his books before he wrote them. He would make the face and do the character he was writing about. So, if he was talking about, Wilkins Macabre, right? He would go to the mirror and he'd act out Wilkins Macabre to himself, and that would lead him to whatever the storyline would continue as. So he would act out each different character in the mirror before he wrote it. So those are just a couple of different facts about Charlie Dickens.
Okay, another one of this crew is listen to some Christmas music.
Oh, I love Christmas music. I love Christmas carols. Oh, I love
I
them.
love Christmas music, but I don't like to see it too early. Right? This week, a week before, this week is fine. I think earlier than this week, yeah, I'm kind of not into it.
God rest you.
When you've heard Feliz Navidad 15 times before it's the 1st of December, before it's the 1st of December, you're like, oh my God.
Well, Feliz Navidad is not one of my favorite. I'm like the
No, not one
traditional
of my
old
favorites
Christmas
either.
carols. I like those. Like God Rest You Merry Gentlemen is my favorite. Silent Night, Holy Night, Jingle Bells, the more festive ones, Fa La 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 La, that one, Deck the Halls. Oh, I love those. Love them. Love them. I
Yeah.
sing along and chase away all living things when I sing.
Right.
I
Mum
gotta
and
take
Dad would
away.
make us kids delicious homemade Ollie Ballon every New Year's. It's a treat also known as Dutchie at Tim Hortons. Yeah.
That's a
Right.
touchy.
You too light on most of this council yesterday, Dave. Or were you just running out of coal? Okay.
No, I'm a little bit kinder than Paul, but Paul, I have to say, has a clearer eye for these kind of things than I do. He studies it more astutely than I do.
Yeah,
But
he's going to look at the finances a lot more. I noticed that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so he has
Right. The
he's
Kings.
got laser focus there. I could only go from what
Yeah.
I've been watching and stuff like that, and yeah. But remember also, Gary, that if I give them coal, they might use it. They'll burn their house
Okay.
down.
Peter Biker is suggesting Kinks Father Christmas.
Oh, the Kinks. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. Right.
One of
Okay.
the bands that does not get enough credit.
Okay. So one of the last one I'm going to suggest for today is go ice skating. I'd like, hey, the only place we're going to go ice skating is in a rink.
Yeah, it ain't closed. I'm afraid. Yeah, we haven't got the weather for it yet.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Outside, but ice skating is not going to happen or unlikely to happen. All right.
Substitute rollerblading, maybe.
So let's move on from that one. Right. So Gaza ceasefire talks are in their final stage, according to the BBC, or what Palestinian negotiators are telling the BBC.
Yeah. This is another result of Trump. All the people that don't like Trump, I don't really kind of cotton to him too much myself. I see he's bullying us and all that too. But guess what he's doing? He says he wants that war to end before he starts. And guess what? They're going to do it.
They are.
Biden couldn't do it for the last half year or more.
Yeah.
Trump says he wants it ended and he wants it ended now. He doesn't trust Netanyahu either. Do you hear Netanyahu beacon off? We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. We have our own interests to take care of. You don't hear anything out of Netanyahu, do you? Because Trump doesn't trust him, and he's told him behind the doors, get that done. I don't like it.
Well, in fact, actually, for Netanyahu right now, the weakness is in Syria. The collapse of the Syrian regime and the fact that they're strengthening their hand in the neutral zone in Syria, in southern Syria, basically is probably acting as the necessary distraction he needs. Plus, also that holding that ground in that neutral zone in Libya, not Libya, Lebanon is also putting his focus in slightly different areas. So Gaza right now, maybe he can seed peace talks.
No, he wanted to demolish every last living thing. Let's make no mistake, he wanted to make everything unlivable in Gaza, and he'd hoped the Palestinians would leave so he could fill it up with settlers. He still might fill it up with settlers. He's expanding the zones in Lebanon and Syria. I know for certain that if they won't leave Syria if they can help it. They'll just add it onto the Golan Heights and take it and annex it. Because they still have this idea of a greater Israel. It says so right there in the Likud charter. That is what the Zionists want to do. When the Zionists are asked we want the river to the sea, they'll say, what side of the river? Implying that they want a piece of Jordan. They want the Sinai Peninsula. They want southern Lebanon and a big chunk of Syria. So that is their goal, to have a greater Israel. This is an opportunity for them to take a piece of Syria. If they can get away with it, they'll keep it for good. If they can get away with keeping southern Lebanon, they'll keep it for good.
Yeah,
but it depends on how much the international community will allow them to do that.
Yeah, southern Syria right now is actually most of that area out where they're expanding the buffer zone is, not really held by government troops, not really held by
the HST
troops.
The HST insurgents. Yeah, no, but right now no Syrian military, no matter where they are from, no matter what group they're from, can handle what Israel has, which is the U.S. backed Israel army. Nobody around there can beat the U.S. backed Israel army. But if the United States decides that they've gone a little bit too far, then they can throttle back some of the weapons and whatever. But right now, I can tell you what the Zionists think. They've got Gaza, and they're going to start. They've already tried to push themselves into the border of Gaza and settle those areas like they have the West Bank. They've already got about 30 or 40% of the West Bank, and then all those settlements are supposed to be illegal. But do you see the United States or any other the Western
not saying a word? Yeah,
anything about it? They won't.
Yeah,
they've taken the Golan Heights, which makes military sense, but now they're expanding even further, and they're taking the highest point in southern Lebanon. Do you think they're going to give up those points? They're never.
Not in the least at all. No.
Not unless they're forced to.
Yeah.
And the Zionist, the Likud party, which Netanyahu is a part of, expresses the need for a greater Israel and to expel the Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza. And depending on what branch of Zionism you're from, they want to expand and make a greater Israel, which would take in parts of Jordan, parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, and the Sinai Peninsula.
Yeah. That said, they're not facing any particular opposition in those parts that they've gone in, or at least not according to the news I've seen.
No, the U.S. has been very weak on them. But Biden has been extraordinarily weak. I can't believe Biden and Blinken. Every time, like Biden come up, we're going to have a peace plan, and he comes up and he says, "We've negotiated a peace plan," and Netanyahu says, "No, we haven't." I remember here it was about a year ago that we were talking about it here that there was a peace plan put out by.
Well, there was a peace plan.
Maybe it was back in July. I can't remember, but we had our doubts.
Biden put one out in 31st of May.
Yeah, that's probably the one I remember. And
probably is.
And you and I says, well, we haven't heard Netanyahu back that up.
Yeah.
And everybody says, oh, well, we did. We negotiated this, we're going to have it in a couple of weeks. And every time they said that, Netanyahu said the opposite.
Yeah. Every time they basically said, oh, we've got a peace plan, it's going to be a couple of weeks, in a couple of weeks. And Netanyahu turns around and drops a load of bombs and says, I don't give anything about a peace plan, not under my leadership.
Yeah, so the Biden administration was extraordinarily weak. They got slapped
Very weak.
around by
Yeah.
Netanyahu. What Netanyahu wants, Netanyahu gets. It was like Biden and Blinken had nose rings on them, and Netanyahu was leading them around. And Blinken was running around pinballing all over the Middle East for absolutely no reason, because the Netanyahu had no intention of a peace deal at all. And Netanyahu looked like the diplomat, like on a pinball machine, because he ran around, talked here, talked there, and accomplished absolutely zero. As a matter of fact, things got worse. And Biden couldn't stand up to Netanyahu. Well, now we have somebody who can stand up to Netanyahu, somebody that doesn't trust him, and that's Trump.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad that it takes a hammer, to well, anyway. That's the might is right, I guess.
Well, okay, so moving on, Ukraine has claimed that it killed Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, head of Radiation, Biological and Chemical Defense Forces, in a residential area on Tuesday, with a device hidden in a scooter that was detonated remotely.
Well, what's going to happen now? This isn't the first time, though. There's been a few other assassinations that have happened by the Ukrainian secret service, if you like, or assassination squads. Now, this guy was the head of the radiation biological. So General Igor Krylov, he was the head of radiation biology and chemical defense forces. Now, he was killed in a residential area, presumably his own residential area.
I'm assuming so, that they must have planned this out in advance.
Now, he was 54 years old, but he is thought to be the guy that's just behind the illegal gas and chemical attacks that have happened in Ukraine. Of course, the Russians deny it because they're illegal, but that didn't stop anybody using them. All the other wars that we've just been recently having, and Syria and so on. So they got him, and they've done a few other things. They've hit a few other military guys, and that kind of thing is going to continue until, well, right now you can imagine that all the military personnel in anywhere in Russia right now are going to try to protect themselves. They're going to try to protect themselves against possible assassination attempts. So,
but basically, Ukraine has already said he was a legitimate target.
Yeah, he is, because he's the one that came up with the chemicals, and but you have to be very careful how you escalate this war, because you don't want extraordinary reprisals. Now, what's Russia going to do? They'll launch a couple of cruise missiles into Kiev, and it's going to kill a bunch of people. You got to really be careful of what you do. If the war on the battlefield is one thing, but when you start bringing it into Moscow, you may motivate an extraordinary response. In order to kill one general, do you want 20 of your people killed by a cruise missile attack?
Basically, and the whole question is, they did this by putting a bomb, an explosive device on a scooter in Ryazansky Avenue in Moscow. And you just think about it, it's like, well, that could have killed other people as well. I get it that it was probably triggered by somebody who was close by, who had a trigger on, hair trigger, who was making sure that nobody else was going to be affected by it, and possibly could have removed the device had they not gone that way.
Yeah, I don't know, but it was a targeted assassination. So it was probably in their best interest not to take anyone else out, and probably just timed it to the right time.
Oh, I think probably the person responsible was in that street in, probably not more than 100 meters away from the bomb.
Maybe even less, and
Yeah.
probably triggered it remotely with a phone.
Yep, absolutely.
Like they do in the IDFs and other places. So
yep, exactly.
They knew the guy's habits. They've been watching him for a while. So
absolutely, exactly that. Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure they probably wouldn't have ignited it if there was other people around. If there was other military staff with them, I don't think they'd care. But if there was just the average person close by, I don't think they would have, because that would have got them a lot of bad press. They took out a chemical guy that is thought to be responsible for the chemicals that are being dropped in Ukraine, the chemical attacks, the gas attack. So he's very important.
Yeah, so it was the general and his assistant that were killed.
Yeah, so both of them are fair game, because they're both responsible for chemical attacks in Ukraine, ostensibly.
Yeah,
but the sooner that damn war gets over with, and I think, you know what, the guy I don't like too much, he's going to be the guy that stops the war in Gaza, and he's going to be the one that stops the war in Ukraine, which frustrates me to no end. That he can do it, nobody else can. It just drives me insane that all this time you got Trump comes in and says, you want the war ended in Gaza, and it's going to happen. And it looks like he's going to have the war end in Ukraine pretty quick as well. So I don't know. But then again, he starts bullying us. So I don't know where to put this guy.
Well, he doesn't like war, that's for sure. Okay. So West Lincoln is going to get $1.23 million from a fund that supports small, rural, and Northern Ontario municipalities. And the mayor, Cheryl Gannon, has basically said this is good news because it enabled them to keep the property taxes down.
Yeah, the reason why I put this here is because I know Cheryl Gannon. She's Kiwanian. She's in the Kiwanis Club of West Lincoln. And all Kiwanians should be running government because we're better than everyone else.
I've met her once, actually, a few years ago, at a municipalities event. I think probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, if anyone here plays Kiwanis TV bingo, she's sometimes working on the phones along with her husband, and her husband sit side by side on the phones and take the phone calls. And so very nice lady, and she's the mayor of West Lincoln, and she's happy to say that she's going to have $1.3 million more dollars. And there you have it. So that helps small communities that don't have a large tax base to maintain themselves. So when I read about that, I didn't even realize that existed, and I thought that's a good thing. If you're talking about government expenditures, worthwhile government expenditures, that is worthwhile government.
Well, they have been typically getting
together with the narrow tax base these days.
Yeah, they have been getting money from this pot for quite some time, but they've never gotten $1 million from the pot. They've been at about 800,000, 800 to 900,000 typically, but now for the first time they've actually gotten 1.23 million from this pot.
And it makes a huge difference to them. Now we look at our own budget. What's our budget here in Niagara Falls? What, 50 million?
Yeah,
50 million a year. and 1 million for them makes an incredible difference. So you get the idea of the different sizes of towns.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And to Niagara Falls, 1 million's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Right. And to St. Catherine's the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, if it's just a drop in the ocean, I'm going to get my cup and make sure to catch that drop before it gets into the ocean.
Yeah. I want the million in here, please. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on. Okay. So hang on a minute. Trumping is making Wills great again. Oh my God! I give you 4 diamonds, Wills.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now that's an endorsement by the Green Bastard from Parts Unknown, the Riverman, who denizen of the whirlpools.
Okay. Yeah. So they're going to basically rename a section of Queen Street to after Rick Rose. This is a block between Buckley and St. Lawrence Avenue, and it'll be renamed for a 5-year period. So that's and basically this is the second time the city has actually granted an honorary street name. Olympic cyclist Gord Singleton, who died of cancer in March, was the first earlier this year to have a street named after him, temporarily renamed. I would have thought it would have been better. I would say that what they should do is add Rick Rose to a permanent name somewhere within a new residential area as you bring a new residential area on board.
Yeah, I would say, like if there's going to be new neighborhoods built, and they're going to be main streets through those neighborhoods, like maybe a Rick Rose subdivision. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe a Gord Singleton subdivision would be nice too.
That would have gone. That would have been what I would have said. Both Rick and Gord have got strong ties to the community. I would have said we should honor them that way, a new subdivision under their name. But I'm not objecting to this. I'm just saying that would be a longer term benefit to them.
Yes. Yeah, quite but we are honoring Rick Rose, and I think it's a universal thing. There is no dispute here.
Oh, none.
He deserves the accolades, and he's getting them. So his legacy will continue on. That's pretty much all I got to say about that. I mean, he's getting his just due respect. The tragedy, of course, all this has to happen after he died, and he's taken too soon. I mean, he probably had a good 20 years of teaching left in him, but oh well, such is life.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, absolutely. And I basically think that in the longer run, that's what they need to do, is to add his name to to the list of names that we name our streets after.
Yeah.
I can see Rick Rose would actually love to have been called Rick Rose Alley. That's what he'd love. I think that one would go down great with Rick.
Well, it'd be nice if we had like if somebody, a developer would kind of take this on, and if they have developing a neighborhood, use names of his songs, kind of like for streets or crescents or something like that.
Yeah. But developers don't tend to name the streets. The city does.
I don't know.
It does. The city has a list of names, and basically what will happen is if you're developing a new street, the first name will come out the bag, and it will be the Wills Avenue.
Well, look, they must have some kind of themes sometimes because they got the solar subdivision.
do
You
have
got
themes.
Mercury, January.
Yeah, they do have themes because they, for example, when they put out, they
Mercury,
had they had the section of the city that was named after the planets, right?
Yeah, the solar subdivision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Mercury, Venus.
The only thing was they put another one in another area.
They've got two.
There's actually, I think there's Mercury, Venus all in one area, but I think Jupiter went somewhere else.
Well, it's a lot bigger. Maybe there wasn't enough room there for
him. But anyway, yeah. So that's
the big gas giant that.
Have we lost you again? Have we lost you, Dave? Uh-oh, we've actually lost Dave by the looks of it. Dave, there you go. Okay.
I'm back.
Okay. All right. So the last time I've got here, Trump divided Trudeau and Freeland. I don't think he did. I think this has been a long time coming. Freeland has, Freeland has had her hands tied behind her back more and more tightly recently. And I don't think, for one, that she was, I don't think she was behind the $200 give out or the HST, holiday.
No. As a matter of fact, she was against it. It's very obvious.
Yeah.
That she called them gimmicks, but I do think that when Trudeau flew down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring, as other leaders have since gone down and kissed the ring, and he was mocked and humiliated thereafter, that Trump pretty much told him, get Freeland off we don't like her, because Freeland was very effective in the negotiations. Freeland was the rock hard point of our negotiations. She's the one that wouldn't budge much. And she was the one that made sure she took care of Canadian interest. And that's why Trump didn't like her, because she was effective and fought very well. So he probably told Trudeau, get rid of her because they don't like her. Now, Trudeau at the particular time had differences with Freeland already, because Freeland did not like the gimmicks that Trudeau had tried to get himself more popularity. Like, Trudeau is really out of touch right now. Nobody cares if he's going to give us a GST holiday. Nobody cares if he's going to give us $250.
And most people are saying, we'll take that money, but we're not going to vote for him.
That's exactly right. That it's not going to get him any much more popularity.
Yeah,
he's had nine ministers drop out in a matter of about 6 months.
And basically,
his campaign manager ran away from him. He took off too. Everybody's jumping off all the rats are leaving the ship, and I think Trump knows that, and that's why he keeps mocking him, calling him the governor of the great state of Canada. And Freeland was poison. Get rid of her.
Well, exactly. He was basically saying, Trump shared on Truth Social on Monday night, her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed.
That tells you that that he was a bit of a match for his negotiators, and he doesn't like that. Yeah, he's a bully, so he wants you to roll over dead. That's why I think they should send Ford down there. He wants a fight, he'll give him a fight.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I say.
Ford hasn't backed down one bit. Ford hasn't backed down one bit, and everybody else is trying to be nice to this guy. No, he'll never respect you if you're nice back to him. He'll call you every kind of name in the book.
That's exactly why Trudeau needs to make Ford our tariff czar.
I would think he'd be a pretty good guy to do that. He ain't mixing words. If he'll If Trump wants a fight, he'll give him a fight. You want to fight? You want to stab me in the heart? You backstabbing son of a bitch. I'm after you, buddy. That is the kind of language that Trump will respect. Not, oh, well, we'll do what you want us to do. No. As soon as you do that, he's got you by. You know what?
Yeah, and by the way, I'm also going to say just because Freeland walked out doesn't mean to say that we're going to forgive her, because we know damn well that she was part of the Liberal government. She's as much guilty of the economic mess we have in the Liberals right now. I for one am not convinced that she's going to put any distance between herself and Trudeau, and I for one also can't see myself voting for a Freeland Liberal Party. Then again, I for one probably can't see myself ever voting Liberal.
It would depend. It would depend. She's been in the background. She's made quite a reputation for herself for being a journalist, an economist, and she's been supporting Trudeau all these times during difficult times. So that's to her credit, I think. She swore to do a job to support the government. That's what she does, and obviously she's had lots of differences with Trudeau along the way. This was the last straw when he kind of stabbed her in the back, tossed her off the bus basically, and hoped to get Carney in there. But Carney doesn't want it, as we discussed yesterday. So we don't know what a Liberal Party would look like under the leadership of Freeland. The Liberal Party is going to be completely devastated very shortly. The longer they wait, the worse it's going to get. They got to get this over with. What will probably happen if Trudeau is smart for once in his life, he'll prorogue government and allow the Liberal government. He will prorogue government and allow the Liberal Party to pick a new leader for the election, if he's smart.
Yeah, but we are now in the 6-week break for a government. Right, so they survived yesterday. Yesterday was the last sitting of the term, so to speak, and they will be back at the end of January. I think 25th of January, something like that.
That's right, and that's when Trudeau, if he's smart, he would prorogue government to allow his Liberal Party to choose a new leader as he steps aside.
Yeah,
if he's smart.
If he's smart, but he isn't smart. He's punching as if you're all traitors to me, and I'm the true leader of the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's, I don't know. He's acting as if he's got this secret weapon that he's waiting to the very last moment to open up the box, where he's got all kinds of dirt on Poilievre or everybody else, and that he'll win. But he's just completely. What happens though is you get a lot of people, sycophants, round him saying how wonderful he is and how great he is and how he's just is the best thing going. Kathleen Wynne found that out too when she should have dropped out for the Ontario Liberals. Look what happened to the Ontario Liberals.
Yeah,
destroyed, and they're not going to be able to rebuild themselves for a long time. And that's because Kathleen Wynne hung on too long, as she admits. But she's a woman; she can come to the point where she can admit that. Men can't do that. So Trudeau is going to completely demolish and wipe out his own party if he doesn't step down.
Yeah, it's easy to admit something afterwards, and doesn't matter what sex you are. It's easy to admit that you made a mistake afterwards once you're no longer in power, because that kind of puts you in a better light. And doesn't, and I think that at the moment, I think Trudeau is kind of in a mindset that he's done nothing wrong.
No, that's the trouble with people like Trudeau. You could say, well, the government is broke and all kinds of things are happening that are bad. but he thinks it's all okay because it was well intentioned. Oh well, we meant well, so that makes it all better.
Yeah.
No,
No.
and that's the problem with progressives overall is they don't care what the result is. If it's a disastrous result of whatever policy, because they meant well, it makes it all right. The business of government has to come first. Your dollars and cents. How much can you afford to do what?
Yeah.
And then pick your priorities. And the priorities are not a GST holiday.
No, it's actually very seriously not on the cards. No. All right. Yeah. And I think we can kind of call it quits at that point.
Okie dokie.
Just seeing if we've got, Peter Biker was saying they were tied by the hip. 9 years of malfeasance cannot be denied. Yeah. And exactly. So that's exactly what I was saying, is that, she can't get away from it.
No, but she was a loyal liberal, so you have to look at it that way. I mean, she did her very best. Remember, she's the first one that a couple of years ago to point out how Canada's productivity level kept continuing to decline. That was one of her main worries.
But she did nothing about it.
I don't know how she could have done anything about it when the other factors about immigration and so on all were factors in this. She only had that one portfolio. The crossover effects of immigration and inflation, I don't know. And I remember she was probably pushing for more austerity, and the other liberals were looking for more spending because that's what makes them popular. So she was probably the voice, the attempted voice of reason in the back chambers, and that's why she lost her job, because she's disagreeing vehemently with Trudeau right now. Trudeau right now would probably spend $100 billion more in deficit if it got him popularity, and in his mind he says, "Well, it's because I meant well. That makes it all right,"
Yeah, and that's the problem. He believes that because he meant well, it's all good.
Yeah.
He still believes that's going to win him the next election. No, it ain't.
Well, yeah, and he claims that the Conservatives are going to cut. Well, of course they're going to cut because the deficit is so huge.
Yeah, at the moment
he himself is going to have to cut. He cut $1 billion out of the military budget. $1 billion.
Yeah.
Out of the military budget at a time when NATO demands that we pay 2%. And what does he do? He takes money out of the military budget, $1 billion.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot
it doesn't matter who the next prime minister is. Come the next election, whoever is voted in as prime minister, whether that be Jagmeet Singh or Pierre Poilievre or our friends from Bloc Québécois, doesn't matter who they are. The first thing they are going to have to do is to reach into that cupboard and grab the scissors, because they are going to be doing cut, because that budget has got to be brought back under control.
Yeah, it's just what are they going to cut?
There's deficit.
Yeah, there's going to be, he says he's going to get rid of the CBC. That's a lot of money there they could save. I'm not so sure it's a good idea to cut off the CBC.
I'm not so sure it's a good idea either.
Well, in remote rural communities, like obviously I almost never listen to CBC anymore. I used to be a devout listener to it, but it doesn't do anything for me anymore. I don't like their morning talk shows. I don't like much anything they have to do.
Yeah.
I pretty well stick to NPR, even they annoy me sometimes. But anyway,
all right.
Anyway,
I think we're going to have to call it quits at that point.
Right. Okie doke.
Yeah.
Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Thanks everyone for watching, and pray for peace.
Thank you. Bye.